Today's podcast is brought to you by a company who we have been using for years and takes up significant shelf space inside of our own kitchen. Biosteel Sports Nutrition.
It was a product created out of necessity 8 years ago and is trusted by athletes like Connor McDavid, Tyler Seguin, Brooke Henderson, Rosie MacLennan, and Andrew Wiggins.
They're really a leader in sports drinks for everyone, from professional athletes to everyday champions.
Understand something, guys. Nothing worth ever having in this world comes easy.
Do what these champions doing if you're going to be a champion.
You control your outcome.
Who am I?
I'm a champion.
What up, champs? Welcome back to a brand new Biosteel breakdown. As always, I'm your host, Adrian, with my co-host,
Sylvie.
And we're back and we're breaking it down. And if you're a long-time listener, thank you. If you're a new listener, we do one of these every single week where we look at a topic around health and wellness, mindset, nutrition, whatever we feel like, or whatever you ask for, and we break it down for you. And so today's topic is a very important one. Before we divulge what the topic is, I'll give you a hint. You can try and guess at home. This is now a game show, apparently. The food groups that I struggle with in relation to this topic are French fries and potato chips. And Syl's food groups would be chocolate and some sort of salted caramel. I still don't know how to say the word.
All things salted caramel.
I've been on the earth for 3 decades and I don't know how to say the word properly.
I think it's tomato. Although I don't know who says tomato, to be honest. We are talking about
Cravings.
We are.
And you are the expert on Cravings because I just succumb to mine and pick up bags of chips and then eat them in the car on my own and then don't tell you about it.
The truth comes out.
The truth comes out. No.
Everyone struggles with this. And it's interesting because when we feel hunger, the act of hunger is usually a physiological thing. So we're feeling it in our gut. We, I can have all these different symptoms, whether it's lightheadedness or we're just feeling hunger. We feel physical ways of it. Whereas cravings are more of a neurotransmitter connection, so a brain connection. So they're both biochemical and behavioral.
Okay.
So if you think about, going to the movie theaters and you associate the trigger of going to the movies with the movie popcorn, and even though you might know that it makes you feel terrible, there's still that trigger and there's still that routine, and then you're getting the reward of eating it, but then you're dealing with the consequences after, maybe from a digestion perspective or whatever that is. So, cravings are very much a behavioral thing as well. And we'll talk about both aspects, both biochemical and behavioral. So cravings are associated with the want centers in the brain. And so the neurotransmitter dopamine is our pleasure center. So it's our reward, and feeling like we always need that hit of likes or whatever it is.
The social media.
But when it comes to cravings, it's like, I need this right now to reward myself. So it's that constant reward and pleasure centers. And so cravings are also highly associated with stress hormones. So cortisol, adrenaline, and they're actually shown to shut off our motivating and goal setting parts of the brain. So it can actually make us very unmotivated, and we can actually physiologically seek comfort foods if we're stressed. So there's both a biochemical reaction to that and a behavioral. So if you're stressed, you might be like, okay, well, I have my chocolate every time I'm stressed. So that becomes that behavioral thing, and you've ingrained that as a behavior or routine. But
it started as
a biochemical thing, because when you're stressed, your body is actually taking away a lot of the nutrients, or you're lacking nutrients that you need to help to control your cravings, which we'll get into. So there's a little bit of, again, that habit loop when it comes to behavioral. So we have the reminder, whether it's the movie theater or whether you finish having dinner and you're like, I have something sweet all the time, so I'm going to continue to have something sweet. And then you get the reward. So you're rewarding yourself. And that's where that dopamine, that biochemical response comes from. So there's several reasons why cravings can happen. And again, it's individual, but stress is one of the big ones. Sleep deprivation. So there's some really cool studies about blood sugar and sleep and how your cravings can, I forget the actual number, but your cravings can significantly increase the next day if you're sleep deprived.
Yeah. There's some
deep dive in that.
Some stuff on how your body will start to resemble like a type 2 diabetic within 2 nights of improper sleep. And so it's such a fast not a fast, but the consequences are so immediate from lack of sleep.
Yeah. So, although yes, there are several diet considerations that we're going to talk about, stress and sleep are two of the big things to talk about in the beginning. And then one thing, that people don't think of it is excessive cardio. So when you're putting your body through a lot of excessive stress, even training in any instance can actually put more stress on your body and increase cravings if you're depleting it from too much exercise. So that's something to consider. Again, not the case for everyone. Usually it's a balance between, again, those behavioral and biochemical reasons, but you could be working against your cravings by trying to exercise your way out of them,
right?
Basically. Right. So what can we do about cravings? And so again, getting to the root of the craving is the most important thing. So I always tell my clients and anyone who I talk to about cravings is to be curious. And so what I mean by that is paying attention to where the craving's coming from, what time of day, is there a certain trigger, like something like, again, 3 p.m. hits and you don't want to talk to your coworker anymore and you
that's it.
Exit the building and you're getting coffee and banana bread
right.
or whatever it is. So what is the trigger? And then, the biggest thing is rerouting that pattern. So coming up with a new routine in the afternoon. So maybe it's going for a walk, trying to avoid all of the Starbucks on the corner, which is very difficult to do. And if you live in a city like Toronto, but having a new routine, whether it's going outside and just sitting down on a park bench, now that the weather's been a
little more cooperative.
Exactly. And so trying to eliminate the trigger as much as possible and, coming up with a new routine. So the trigger, the routine, and then the reward, again, coming up with a new system for that as much as possible. And this is the behavioral stuff. And then we want to help to balance the neurotransmitters. So this is where lowering stress becomes a huge factor for cravings. And the reason that I keep on talking about stress is because it's the number one thing that will increase cravings. So lowering stress, things like meditation, deep breathing, again, walks in nature, and focusing on exercise, whether it's lighter exercise, if that's what your body needs, and coordinating that with the higher intensity exercise and trying to balance that as much as possible. Things like journaling as well can really help to decrease stress. And so when it comes to nutrition perspective, there are a lot of things that we can take into consideration. And I see this all the time because I look at hundreds of food logs on a weekly basis. Right. And people, when they, even if it's a healthy food, sometimes they can have cravings because they're not conscious of, foods that they need to add in. So what I mean by that is, if you have just oatmeal for breakfast, and I'm using this example because I have personally experienced this, and you're not including protein and other fiber sources, and maybe a bit of healthy fats, what can happen is you can actually have more sugar cravings later in the day because you've started with something on the heavy carbohydrate.
Okay. End of the spectrum, I guess.
Exactly. So making sure that you're focusing on, balancing that a bit more. So following my checklist, you want to focus on protein in the morning, fiber, veggies, healthy fats, whatever it might be. Magnesium rich foods can really help. So dark leafy greens, beans and legumes. Magnesium can seriously be depleted when we're stressed because it helps us to get into our actually rest, digest, recover, rejuvenate. And so when we're stressed, we can actually be depleted in magnesium, and this can lead to more cravings. So fruits and vegetables, again, incorporating a lot of whole foods. B vitamins is another big one. So you'll see this a lot. If you're stressed, certain B vitamins will be seriously depleted. So you want to make sure you have a whole foods diet and things like nuts and seeds and dark leafy greens and all of those delicious,
those good things,
healthy fats. Yeah, exactly. And then things like, if you're having sugar cravings, chromium is huge. And I talk about this all the time. Chromium is a nutrient that will help to decrease sugar cravings in particular. And things like cinnamon can help to balance blood sugar with that. So even if you're putting cinnamon in, your coffee or on your morning oats with protein and that type of thing, it can help to balance sugar cravings. So making sure that you're following that checklist of, do I have adequate protein? Even using things like Biosteel, actually, the high performance sports mix BCAAs have been linked to decreasing cravings as well. So things like that you can have throughout the day to help manage this. And so start with the behavioral. Where is the where is the craving coming from, recognizing and paying attention to it, doing a little food log to see the patterns with it, rerouting the routine, and then focusing on what might be depleted from a nutrition perspective.
I like it. Nice work. Crushed it. I think that's good on that section, right?
Any questions?
Comments, concerns? Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, head over to the website, Biosteel, use the code word.
Champ Lifestyle, capital C, capital L.
And grab yourself 15% off your next order. You can get some things to help you deal with your cravings.
Totally.
And if you have any questions for next week or any future weeks, let us know. I know a couple people did send questions in, so we're going to loop around and get them in the next little bit. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back next Friday breaking down a whole new topic.